Hi everyone. So today I'm going to continue explain correctly by talking about ESTP, the Conqueror. So, what can we say about ESTP? Why are they the Conqueror? Well, because this is the type that is most likely to want to take charge and impact in a big way on their present surroundings. So, what we have first is the ego block, what they bring to the world. And for the ESTP, this is bringing together extroverted sensing and introverted thinking. So, this type is very much about bold, decisive action on setting out what they want and impacting on their environment to get what they want. And they utilize both force of will, but also a certain, you say, awareness of structure and making sense of things to support them getting what they want, essentially. So, yes, the idea of creating structure and narrative and rules and systems to support that pursuit of force, pursuit of power, pursuit of the material things that they want, essentially. So, dominant function for the ESTP is extroverted sensation. So, this is the main thing about them. They are highly intense, proactive, decisive individuals. There's no subtlety to ESTPs. They get what they want. They have this primal urge to be the dominant one, to be the one in charge, to be the big tough fellow, you could say. If it's a fellow, not necessarily a fellow. Um, very good at tactical intelligence, being able to act quickly in the moment, being able to quickly assess the advantages and disadvantages, the threats, the opportunities of people around them and the situation around them, be able to act to the best advantage in that moment. They're very good at that. They are brilliant tacticians, ESTPs. And the idea is that they're motivated towards usually higher status, usually material wealth, usually force of conquest, the idea of fighting for glory or carving out big tracts of land through their action. These are all things which you'll find ESTPs being quite motivated by, depending on the particular age in which you find that ESTP, whether more medieval or more modern day, etc. There's always that combative side to them, this idea of pitting the force of will against other wills and winning out, being the toughest one, having the most muchness to them compared to anyone else. That's crucial to ESTP. The idea of the struggle, the idea of the fight, the idea of the hunt is very much in line with extroverted sensation, which motivates them. But supporting extroverted sensation is introverted thinking. So ESTPs have also an intellectual, structural side to them. These types are very good at setting out the rules to make sense of their surroundings, to support their continued ability to win and acquire the power that they want. So they can very quickly formulate and reformulate rules and dictates and decrees if they're in a position to be doing such a thing, or setting out certain ideologies under which they are more likely to win and get ahead. The idea of winners versus losers, for instance, the idea of what we do is the best, what they do is not the best. And they're very good at working with structures of meaning, asserting things and reasserting those things until they are actually believed, to frame things in the way that is to their advantage. They can come out with certain insults or certain labels to attach to people, and they can, over time, people start to believe those labels because they're asserted again and again and again. It's stamped onto their reality, and that then suits the ESTP and whatever they want to win or go for. So they're very good at creating these very clear distinctions. They're very confident in their logic and setting out what things are, the way things just are, what the truth really is. They're very good at entering that sort of debate scenario and tearing apart other arguments. You know, they're not just physical, they've also got that sort of mental strength, and they're quite dynamic in the kind of thinking which they're able to use to quickly make sense of new things, assess what the underlying rules are, and then being able to act accordingly. Um, So yes, very intellectually confident types, ESTPs. Now, the superego block for the ESTP, this is what they don't value and they aren't strong at. So this is the realm of considering lots of different possibilities, being sensitive to people's intentions, giving people the benefit of the doubt based on sort of trust and hope for their inner potential for goodness to shine. That's not all kind of alien to an ESTP. These are not really lovers; they are fighters, you could say. When it comes to first of all, extrovert intuition in the role function. Sure. ESTPs, more so than the ISTJ, which we would have looked at before, more so than ISTJ, ESTPs are able to think outside the box. They're able to remain open to alternative possibilities. They can do it. They can have that sort of more creative approach to their thinking, right? They can consider what else could be. But they don't like talking shops. They don't like discussion for the sake of discussion. They don't like opening up new possibilities for its own sake. The way of the ESTP is to be direct, is to confront the thing head on, is to go through and cut the Gordian knot, you could say. So these are not types to sit and discuss and speculate. They are people of action. And by being people of action, the idea of speculation is not really natural or comfortable for them. They can do it, but it's not something they enjoy doing at all. And they can't do it especially well either. It's, they can do it, but there can be situations where they won't be able to be open enough. It's in a completely new situation for them, perhaps. So yeah, that's their role function. Then we have the vulnerable function, which is introverted feeling. So this is the blind spot to ESTPs. These types are not easily aware of the underlying intentions of people, the character of people. Are people really good? Are people really bad in their nature? The ESTP isn't really focused on that. They don't really give it much credence. As far as the ESTP is concerned, they are in an environment of constant battle with anyone and everything. They can form occasional truces with people, perhaps ongoing truces with people, but it's a truce in an environment of ongoing war and ongoing battle, because these are naturally fighters in their nature. They are martial in their thinking. So the idea of a set relationship, a bond of loyalty over time, they can demand loyalty in terms of fealty because of their greater might, their greater accomplishment, you could say. But these aren't the types to forge a one-to-one relationship based on their personal attitude towards that person's attitude back. Instead, ESTPs may struggle with maintaining stable, close relationships with others. They may take issue with someone complaining about them in public, for instance, and suddenly turn against that person. And they won't easily preserve those loyalties as a result. Or they may go on what someone is showing and saying externally rather than reading the undercurrents of someone's intentions to know whether to trust them or not. It can lead to ESTPs being betrayed later on as a result. ESTPs often do things in public, in playing up to the public, which can sort of hurt their closer personal relationships. So for an ESTP to really manage well in the relational sphere, they need someone who is very tolerant. They need someone who is not going to be judgmental of them and their character. They need someone to whom, as long as they get upset and as long as they find that way to show their contrition in some sort of show of passion, they will be forgiven for whatever actions they've done to transgress. And ESTPs will transgress. They don't easily respect personal boundaries and personal disagreements. They see this as all something to overcome. Something if they impact enough, they can get what they want in almost any situation. So yeah, ESTPs are not so interested in personal intentions. That's sort of what I like or dislike under the surface. They're interested in what people are expressing and what people are doing and how that will come across. So yeah, that's the blind spot to an ESTP. These aren't types who get personally offended and talk about things in that kind of way. They are types which are very much more about, what is the logic? Does it make sense? Is it hypocritical or not? Are you a bad character or not? They may say if someone is bad character, but it's usually part of their narrative formation to win out against an opponent, you could say. But they'll decide things not based on personal conscience-driven attitude, but rather based on the code they would put together, a way of being, perhaps from their introverted thinking. Next, we have the super id block for the ESTP. So this is what is valued but is weak. So ESTPs, what they really like and appreciate from others, that sense of destiny, that sense of purpose, something more significant, something to really care and feel passionate about. And ESTPs struggle to create that themselves. They are tacticians. They're not strategists. They're certainly not political strategists. They lack the nuances and the subtlety of manipulation. They tend to be very obvious and overt in what they do and what they want to get, and they're very good at that sort of obvious, overt way of getting what they want. So this takes us to the suggestive function, first of all. Introverted intuition. I said ESTPs are pure tacticians. They are not strategists. They do not think very well far ahead. They can plan. They can set out what they want to do. They don't have the intuition for just knowing how things will turn about. They see what's going on around them. They know how to react in the moment, but they don't have that intuitive sense of where things are going. Saying that, they greatly admire a sense of destiny, a sense of outcome. They will look to the seer, to the mystic, to provide them with that sense of greater destiny to fight for. And then there'll be not only a warrior, but a crusader for that, should they feel that cause is worthwhile enough. You can think of examples such as, think of sort of like Richard the Lionheart finding that crusade to fight abroad in the Middle East, you could say. But other examples, the guy who played the Godfather in The Godfather, finding that the actor for that finding the cause of the Native Americans to take up. So there are this idea of finding this overwhelming cause, this thing which is higher, as it's Marlon Brando. Finding that cause is very important to these types. They're not able to find that really themselves or have confidence in articulating what that is. They tend to, on their own, believe in things like luck, believe in things like being able to get the one up in that moment, but they need something deeper, something more transcendent, more significant in order to fight for, to give them that direction. And that's something which, a certain other type, which I'll cover next, is able to cover. Without it, yes, ESTPs may charge headlong into things. They may be too hasty. They may be too impatient. They may just, not see the future outcomes of their actions. They may do things which look very convenient in that immediate moment to win, and they may win the battle, but they may inadvertently lose the war as a result. That's one of the problems. Next, we have the mobilizing function. So this is what the ESTP takes on themselves. The idea here is that ESTPs like to be admired. They like to have and create a positive reaction in other people. Same thing with ENTPs. The ESTP is going to be more happy to have that sort of impact of fame and notoriety, even if it's not necessarily positive. They still want to be admired. If people are saying bad things about them or affecting their reputation, they're going to go out and they're going to challenge that. They're going to protect their reputation. Respect is a very important thing for an ESTP, and they all do what they can to secure that respect, to maintain their street cred, you could say, to manifest themselves, whether if you're thinking more in a medieval way on coinage, to project their power in a way which also conveys their image. ESTPs are very much about being known, having a reputation, achieving fame, having stories of glories to brag about in public is definitely something an ESTP would be very happy to do and talk about. The problem is sometimes because they lack that sort of restraint and personal attitude formation, they can come across as buffoonish at times, a bit like ENTPs can. They can overdo it. They can overstep the boundary in trying to create the reaction in others, and that can cause them to be looked upon in a negative way or to polarize their audiences. Think about someone like Silvio Berlusconi and his actions with various women, essentially destroying his reputation. That's the sort of problem an ESTP could end up getting into. Or you think someone like Donald Trump becoming almost the most hated man by the various press, mainstream press at least. That's an example of where that focus on reputation could also backfire. So yes, this need to be a recognized figure, but to have that lead to a positive reputation is sort of a tightrope which these types often tread. As they become more confident, the more they'll be likely to take risks in this area, and the more likely this could backfire for them. Now we turn to the id block, and that is SI and TE, introverted sensing and extroverted thinking. So these types can do the day-to-day practicality, right? They are good at that. They know how to handle that. They are practical types. However, they are not so interested in the idea of gradually working on things, building up skills to improve in their functioning for its own sake. These are types about impact, and they're about total structural changeover and revolution of whatever it is they want to do in order to make that impact. ECPs are seeking status. They're seeking a dominance in their society, in their immediate environment. It's not simply about practicing skills and learning competence. It's to acquire greater status and greater push power, you could say, in the world around them. So with that lens, if you look at their ignoring function, that would be introverted sensation. ESTPs are high intensity characters. They are restless. They are relentless. They are highly active people. They have their impact on their surroundings. They aren't peaceful people. They often might not know what to do in a time of peace. They're at their best in the time of war, in the time of urgency and emergency. So peace feels almost dead to them. That's not where they're likely to do well. They are, however, able to see things in detail, able to balance the details around them in the day-to-day, but they will only do it to secure material advantages, not just to keep things nice and peaceful and friendly and harmonious. Saying that, they can be quite set on what is allowed in their space. They control their space, not going to let things which they don't like into their space, like, for instance, a certain food they don't like or something else. If something offends their eye, which they do have that aesthetic sense, they are not going to allow it in their vicinity. As part of their impact, they're also going to be quite controlling over the introverted sensation aspect, except it will be purely in support of their extroverted sensation. So, yes, not the sort of peaceful, harmony-seeking types, but rather restless, often conflict-seeking types. Finally, we have the demonstrated function, that's extroverted thinking. ESTPs do not value that pragmatic way of thinking for its own sake. They prefer that sort of more absolute structural way of thinking, but they tend to use it a lot. ESTPs are very good at quickly assessing a situation, understanding the rules of the terms of play, and also then finding solutions to make this work efficiently and effectively. They can be very efficient and effective in the way that they work. They can quite take for granted their ability to absorb factual information and figure it out as they go along. They're very good at improvising with their heads in that moment. They might not be the sort of hard-working students, you could say. They might not spend too much time rehearsing or practicing. They're perhaps at their best just going in and figuring it out. But they will be able to absorb a great deal of factual information. They may relax by actually absorbing information, learning, picking things up, applying new skills. But again, it's not for its own sake. It's more for that maximized impact. But yes, ECPs take their ability to take in facts and apply them for granted. It's a very strong area for them. They're very practical, very hands-on. very able to sort almost everything out and take things off other people's hands. And in doing so, and being competent in this way, that allows them to achieve more control and more power and more dominance over their surroundings. Anyway, I hope that helps. That is the ESTP. If you would like to learn more about the types, perhaps learn more about socionics in general, the information elements, the functions, how to type people and intertype relationships, this all can be learned in my course. To find out more, simply email worldsocionics@hotmail.com with an email titled course, and I'll send you more information. And yeah, you can learn socionics that way. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. All the best.